How to measure unpaid care work and address its inequalities. From a monthly assistance to women family heads in Tamil Nadu to an enhanced Orunodoi scheme in Assam, pension for housewives in Kerala, and income support to family heads of households in West Bengal. Various proposals for empowerment have been put forward by various parties to reach out to women voters. The manifestos for the ongoing assembly elections have promised various forms of payment to homemakers, thus putting the spotlight on the unpaid domestic work done by women. From a monthly assistance to women family heads in Tamil Nadu to an enhanced Orundoi scheme in Assam, pension for housewives in Kerala, and income support to female heads of households in West Bengal, various proposals for empowerment have been put forward by various parties to reach out to women voters. The promises have sparked a debate on the issue of care work and possible solutions to address the disparities therein. Housework and the economy. Unpaid care work, according to the OECD, refers to all unpaid services provided within a household and for its members, including care of persons, housework, and voluntary community work. These activities are considered work because theoretically one could pay a third person to perform them. Standard measure of economic activity do not take into account a large portion of this work, much of which is done by women and girls. The gender inequalities in the time allocated to this work are glaring, with McKinsey estimating that women do 75% of the world's total unpaid care work. In India, women spend 299 minutes a day or unpaid domestic services while men spend 97 minutes according to the 2019 NSS report on time use. This inequality has a direct correlation with participation in the formal economy. Consider the numbers. India has slipped 28 places to rank 140th among 156 countries in the World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap 2021. Among the drivers of this decline is a decrease in women's labor force participation rate, which fell from 24.8% to 22.3%, the report said. It also estimated that earned income of women in India is only one-fifth of men's, which puts the countries among the bottom 10 globally on this indicator. The economic contribution of women is 17% of India's GDP, less than half of global average. The COVID-19 pandemic has by many accounts exacerbated the situation. By November 2020, while most men got their jobs back, women had a much tougher time. About 49% of total job losses by that time were of women, CMIE has estimated. Going by the numbers, therefore, women's economic participation is very poor. However, as the time use survey shows, women spend a disproportionate amount of time compared to men on unpaid domestic work, which is ironically the hidden engine that keeps economies, businesses, and societies running and contributes significantly to individual well-being. While this work is foundational for societies, it is mostly invisible, undervalued, and unaccounted worldwide. The ILO estimates that if such services were to be valued on the basis of an hourly minimum wage, they would amount 9% of global GDP, that is around 11 trillion US dollars. According to the International Labour Report on care work and care jobs for the future of decent work, unpaid care work is the main barrier preventing women from getting into, remaining, and progressing in the labor force. Therefore, policies should address the rising need for care and tackle the huge disparity between women and men's care responsibilities. This is especially true for India, given that a major challenge on the economic front is getting more women into the formal workforce. Measuring and monetizing care work. The efficacy of class economic indicators like GDP and unemployment rates in measuring living standards and social progress in increasing being called into question. These indicators also do not take into account the allocation of labor and time resources by households and their impact on livelihoods and well-being. Measuring unpaid care work is thus key to arriving at more inclusive socio-economic indicators and in formulating policies to address the gender gap. The value of unpaid work can be estimated by calculating the amount of time spent on it. through time use surveys and thus putting a price on it by calculating the opportunity cost or replacement cost or by measuring the labor inputs that go into the activity. But this has its own challenges. According to an Oxfam survey, care work is often not considered work and not done automatically. Hence, respondents are less likely to report time spent on care. It is also difficult to capture the whole spectrum of care work as multitasking is common. For example, women might look after children while cooking or engaging in farm work. Variation and seasonality of work is also difficult to capture. Another issue that arises in accounting for unpaid work in national accounts and its international harmonization, the system of national accounts puts unpaid labor in the category of own account services and excludes it from the activities in the production account. Wages for housework. In 1972, International Wages for Housework campaign was launched in Italy and spread to the UK, while wages for housework committees were formed in various US cities. Selma James, a founder of International Wages for Housework campaign, now coordinates Global Women's Strike, a movement that seeks recognition for all household work and justice for women's unacknowledged contribution to the labor force. However, wages for housework is not a central demand in these movements because it perceived to reinforce gender division of labor apart from being difficult to implement. In India, an application by the National Housewives Association seeking recognition as a trade union in 2010 was rejected by the Deputy Registrar of Trade Unions on the ground that housework is not a trade or industry. In 2012, the then Minister for Women and Child Development, Krishna Tirath, had said that the government was considering mandating a salary for housework to women from husbands, the aim being to financially empower women. However, the proposal never materialized. There are instances of cash transfer schemes for women, such as Goa's Griha Aadhar scheme and Assam's Arunodaya scheme, but they are positioned as financial support rather than payment for housework. Earlier this year, the Supreme Court ruled in a motor accident claim case that household work is no mean feat and fixing notional income for a non-earning homemaker is a step towards the constitutional vision of social equality and ensuring dignity of life to all individuals. In a separate concurring judgment, Justice N.V. Ramana elaborated on the legal complexities in calculation of notional income of non-earning homemaker. Apart from questions of implementation, who pays in what form, who gets it, and how much payment for housework raises other issues regarding social implications and unintended consequences, whether it would further perpetuate patriarchal and caste inequalities. The issue has political resonance, hence its emergence in pre-election discussion. According to many experts, such a step is a beginning as it recognizes glaring inequities, but more needs to be done to address the underlying issue. The way forward. The first step in addressing the inequalities in unpaid work is to recognize its value. This requires data, especially on time use. More data will make more unpaid care work visible and help the frame targeted policies and enable better monitoring of the impact of policies and investment. The NSS report Time Use in India 2019 was the first such countrywide survey to be conducted in India. The next step would be reducing unpaid care work by investment in physical infrastructure like clean water and sanitation, energy and public transport, and in social infrastructure such as care and health services and education. According to Oxfam report in households with access to government's National Rural Drinking Water Program, women spend 22 minutes less per day on average and on care work and 60 minutes per day on paid work. The results for households that began using LPG gas cylinders for cooking under the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana were similar: 49 minutes less spent on care work and hour more on paid work. Finally, redistribution of care work between men and women and between families and the state will encourage positive social norms and economic development. Investments in an expansion of care services for children and childhood education, for example, have the potential to generate jobs, many of which could be taken up by women. More equitable child care and maternity hospital policies could help reduce the motherhood penalty. This approach would help address discriminatory and social institutions, encourage awareness, and defeminize care work. The importance of unpaid care work in addressing gender issues is delineated under the Sustainable Development Goal 5, which talks about recognizing unpaid domestic work through the provision of public services, infrastructure, and social protection policies and promotion of shared responsibility within the household, which will help ensure women's full and effective participation at all levels of decision making in political, economic, and public life. Thank you.